It is the Illini Basketball Podcast, episode 129, following a victory this time around.
Victory.
I think I'm the one who predicted that, not to brag at all, not bragging whatsoever, but Illinois.
Yeah, you sound pretty confident during the watch party, too. So.
Well, I definitely did. There's no doubt about that. And
Yeah.
there's really no proof regardless, unless somebody goes on Twitter. That's the only way you can watch that.
So. Oh, did we have one of those? Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, I don't know that ever happened.
So Illinois pulls off the win against number 2 Texas in overtime. There's about 10 minutes there where I think Brad Underwood said we couldn't beat a high school team. So to pull that off, pretty impressive. As always, we'll start with our Pogs, player of the game. We both had separate ones. I think there's probably 3 or 4 guys you probably could have picked for this. You probably wouldn't, but, some people could. I'm going to go with Jaden Epps. 31 minutes, 2 of 7, 1 for 2 from 3. Huge 3 for Illinois. He was 6 of 8 from the free throw line, 11 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 2 turnovers. I don't know if I would say he was the best player on the court that night, but when Illinois needed something, he made it happen. Hawkins, after calling a horrific timeout, found a way to get him the ball. Some people might say that Hawkins traveled. I don't know how he made the pass, but I guess being 6'10", you can make passes like that. And then he gets fouled up top. I don't know what Texas was thinking at that time. Of course, Hunter missed the free throw, and Jaden Epps comes up, knocks down 2 free throws with 7.6 seconds. And people are saying that he got a block on that final play on Marcus Carr. I didn't see the block, I guess. I thought Terrence Shannon Jr. played great defense on Carr. Epps did come over and help. So if he got a hand on the ball, I guess that would be his 1 block. And to come off, missing the 3 that would have got you the lead in Maryland, and to still have that confidence to be able to shoot the ball and shoot it with confidence is great. Matthew Meyer, who was your player of the game, we'll get to in a second. He told Fletch on the bench that, quote, I would rather have him shooting these over anyone. So that's how much confidence he has in Jaden Epps at the free throw line. I think Underwood made it very clear who he trusts at the end of the game. Jaden Epps seems to be that guy over Sky Clark, which we thought was interesting the last game. Seems to be how it's going to be. He did it in the Virginia game. And Brad said, quote, we went to him in the Virginia game. He's a tough nut and no fear, and it doesn't matter if he has a 5th-year senior in Marcus Carr guarding him. And that was the play in overtime, I think, that, Illinois kind of got a big lead. Texas got it back within 1, and then Jaden Epps went right at Marcus Carr, made a big bucket for Illinois then. So, and then Brad said about all the freshmen that they're growing up and they're going to keep growing. So lots of comments. ACG's here. He says Jaden Epps is him. I love him. Jaden Epps is him. That's my favorite saying.
Well, I fixed it for everybody since I know you like the numbers especially, so I threw the 3 in there.
Yes, even better. Jay says, what's up? Thank God it's Friday. ACG Epps played like a senior with ice in his veins. He did. He was clutch down the stretch. I don't think that Ethan put him in his 3 studs because I told him not to. So I'm making up for it by making him my player of the game. ACG also says, I can't remember who said it, but one of the guys said Epps said, I'm not going to miss these free throws. Yeah, I think he did that in the huddle. I think it might have been between, like when they tried to ice him, if I remember correctly. So who was your player of the game?
Well, before we get to that,
okay.
I just rewatched the last play of regulation, and I will say that my definition of a block is much different than whoever was counting that, because Epps,
it didn't look like a block.
If you're going to count it as a block, you're going to give it to Epps because he touched the ball, but Carr also threw it straight in the air. So
yeah, and then he tried to fly 20 feet back like he
Yeah.
got fouled or something. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people have said it. That was a little bit of a Minnesota Marcus Carr
yeah.
in that game.
Yeah.
Very bad. But my player of the game was obviously Matthew Meyer, who probably would have had 50 if the refs didn't stink.
Yeah.
Might have had 50 points.
Yeah. If he doesn't get 4 fouls, I don't know. Matthew Meyer is that hyper aggressive guy that he can get 2 fouls in 30 seconds, which is
and
not
he
always
can make
great,
like
but
6 threes in a row, and you're like, okay, start passing it. Maybe start passing it.
yeah.
They're all over you. Start passing it, and then he still makes it. 28 minutes, 8 of 10 from the field, 5 for 5 from 3, 21 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 2 turnovers. So certainly his best game of the season by a long shot. And if you would have told me that this team would be 7-2 with Meyer pretty much doing nothing for the majority of that offensively, I think they're in a good spot. I think that would be a good spot to be in, which they are. So.
Yeah, and I hope that this isn't Matthew Meyer trying to take over games though because of this. Which I mean, if he's making them, fine, but he's got a lot of really good players around him.
He's not on the exempt list. Like the only guy that could do that without getting taken out is Coleman Hawkins.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
He would take Meyer out if that happened, I
assume. He said after the game that, quote, "I've been dealing with a lot of injuries that I haven't really talked to the coaches about," which I think is kind of weird, but he said it's a work in progress and I'm getting there. I think he told the guys today, the media today, that he was at 75% right now. He also is starting to fast. He fasted before practice because he was running late. So he said that he just felt amazing. And so now he's going to start doing it before every game. And he said, quote, "I felt so amazing playing. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm walking on air right now. I think I'm going to start doing that on game days." So that is his new thing. That's my worry. I mean, fasting is, but if it's working, I guess.
But I mean, is it really a fast if you're drinking drinking things other than water? I mean,
yeah. I don't fast. So if you look at me,
I've tried it, and obviously I failed.
Jay says, "I've said for years, Illinois doesn't seem to get calls even at home while compared to other Big Ten teams. It could be my biased eyes, but I don't think so." Yeah, I mean, there were calls in this game that, you question, but finding a way to win regardless of how the game's going is what's important, and Illinois did that. Matthew Meyer did talk about, he played Texas at Baylor. And this is a quote, so don't ban me or anything. He said, quote, "It was fun talking shit to Brock. He was my high school teammate." So had to throw that in there. Matthew Meyer threw out shit a few times in his quotes. So,
but he said, "Gosh," I mean, what was that?
Good golly. Good golly. ACG says Marcus Carr playing bad versus Illinois goes better together than Bo Borowski calling against Illinois every time. Marcus Carr was not on. He hasn't ever been on. I think somebody posted that he's like something crazy, like 14 for 52 against Illinois.
I'm pretty sure I wrote down the stat before the game.
Yeah.
So. But like I think Texas has realized the last couple of years, like, okay, we need a better guard next to him to balance. And obviously Tyrese Hunter, I think, is better than Carr. Yeah. But he was also hurt in overtime. So
yeah, cramping. So Illinois, being able to go 9 deep, and apparently, all the training they put in before definitely helped compared to, because it looked like Marcus Carr was cramping after that missed shot, or I don't know what he was doing.
So Carr was 25% from the field against Illinois going into this game. But 44% from 3 going into it, so that's a bit surprising. But let's see. From the field in his career against Illinois, let's make sure this is totally accurate. I have it as 12 for 50.
12 for 50, okay.
So
14 for 52 is pretty close.
And his three-pointer he dropped from 44% to 28% in one game. So that's probably not good for him.
Yep.
But he's not a winning player, would be my thoughts. I don't even think Chris Beard can win with him, to be honest.
Yeah. He definitely can't win against Illinois. So
No.
I got one more quote here from Brad after the game. He said, quote, "We are relying on Coleman, Terrence, and Matthew, and we haven't had Matthew, and I'm giddy. And I welcomed him to the orange and blue after the game. Unbelievable kid and a winner." He loves calling him a winner.
He's a winner, yes.
So yeah, definitely our two Pogs. I think Terrence Shannon you could put up there. The way he played in overtime, he wasn't great during the game, but Terrence played 35 minutes, 5 for 14 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, 5 for 5 from the line, 16 points. 12 of those came in overtime, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 turnovers. Like I said, I thought his defense on Carr at the end of regulation was really good. And the fact that he came out, hit that nice little 15-footer, then he followed it up with a 3 that looked like it might have airballed, but it somehow, nothing but net. That's just kind of his shot, I guess. It's either nothing but net or an airball. So he got asked a lot about, the game and stuff. And this was kind of his quote to everybody, I think. He said that I was just telling my teammates, way to keep us in the game. They were just great. I just kept telling them, praising them, man, good job. You're keeping us in it. You're all playing great. I got you, and I'm going to come through for you eventually. And that's what I kept telling them in overtime. So definitely did that. Coach Beard, after the game, of course, recruited Terrence Shannon to Texas Tech before leaving. Beard said, quote, "When it came to winning time, he was at his best. He's somebody that I love. He's family." And then I left him for Texas.
So family that you left for Texas.
More.
I mean, if you look up Chris Beard on Twitter, you will see so many Texas Tech fans. Just oh, shame. Oh, Texas. Oh, Chris Beard. Oh, what a shame. It's really something. They hate that guy. And they're going to have to be playing against him, in the Big 12 until Texas ditches for the SEC. But they hate Chris Beard. And I guess Shannon likes him. I don't know. I mean, he did leave.
They had a nice embrace after the game, I think. So
feels like Shannon's
ACG likes your soccer jersey behind you, I think.
It's the wrong sport, but that's fine.
Jimmy says get back to work. Yeah, I'm off the clock, sir. All right. Coleman Hawkins, 42 minutes, all but 3 minutes. Amazing. 2 of 8, 1 of 5 from 3, 4 of 6 from the line, 9 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 1 turnover. 1 turnover I love. Thank you, Coleman Hawkins. I don't know. That had to be the cut where he tried to pass it to Sky Clark, and Sky Clark cut away from the basket.
Yep.
Instead of to the hoop. So really not his fault, I guess, if you look at it. I mean, Sky Clark took the blame on that. I think, you gotta notice where your guys are going, though. We started the watch party bashing Coleman Hawkins. You might have got into somebody during the watch party about Coleman Hawkins. But I thought Coleman Hawkins struggled to open the game. I thought that his defense wasn't great. But there's no doubt that he's a high impact guy. That's why he plays, all but 3 minutes or whatever it is. So I have no qualms over Coleman in this game, except for maybe the timeout and some disastrous defense at the beginning. But that's what we do. We look for the flaws in Coleman Hawkins just to make everybody else mad. So
yep.
RJ, 27 minutes, 3 of 6 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. Should have been 2 of 5, but Coleman called a timeout. 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, 2 turnovers. I saw the frustration. People, I've kind of said Underwood's harsh on RJ, but his defense, there was a point in the game where he made a 3, came down, and then just got lost and let Texas make a 3 back at him. But he's doing good. He's still playing well, I think. He's the guy that I think you want to go to the free throw line when the game's on the line and you need to put it away. He's probably the best free throw shooter on the team right now. I don't know for sure. But yeah, RJ still he's playing solid. His defense is lackluster, but I think Illinois' defense at times is really bad, and then it's like something clicks finally, and it gets really good. I mean,
I don't look at RJ's defense and say it's lackluster. I look at it and say
I feel like
if
he doesn't
he's
hustle.
if he's playing man up, man defense, I think he'd be really
Yes.
good. But in
Yes.
this switching defense, he gets lost a lot.
He gets lost.
The Cunningham 3 that cut it to 1 in overtime when Illinois went up 4 was not good. Like it was 77-73, and then
the one block he had, I mean, he jumped once and then got back up and blocked that ball. So Illinois pretty impressive as far as 12 blocks this game, which is.
But I'd like to go back
crazy.
and see how many of those I would have actually counted as a block, given the one at the end of regulation was not a block.
Yeah,
that there should be a stat for guards who throw the ball in the air and slide back to the first row, because that's what Carr did. And and then Beard was like looking away, starting to walk away. He's like, "Oh, I should probably help him up. Might be a bad look." I'm sure he was thinking about how it would look more than anything else. I'm sure, given that I like Beard a lot, but I know that Texas Tech fans would have that perspective on it. So
yeah. Sky Clark, I thought this was probably his worst game of the year. 21 minutes, 2 of 5. He was 1 of 2 from 3. He had a nice step back 3. 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and team leading 4 turnovers. So I guess this is why he's on the bench in crunch time. I don't know.
Well,
I know Brad likes to play hot hands, but I like Jaden Epps wasn't the hot hand. I think he has more trust in him to score the ball than he does Sky Clark right now. So
I think it was probably Sky's worst game, least amount of minutes he's played. I think his least impactful game was definitely the Syracuse game, but this is probably his worst game because of the turnovers. He had 4 turnovers against UCLA, but he also had 10 points and 5 boards in that game. Just not a huge impact. This is the third game. You have the Virginia game, the Maryland game, and this game where Epps has been the guy at the one late.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes sense. I don't really know. I don't really buy into, well, Sky's just going to transfer because he's not playing at the end of the game. I don't think that's.
Hey, let me push my agenda to get.
Yeah, you could do that, but
clicks,
it just seems stupid.
Zach says Sincere's block leading to the Epps RJ breakout completely changed the game. Yeah, I think that came at like 6:30. Illinois didn't score or they had 2 points, and it didn't even go in. It was a goaltending, right? From like 18 minutes to 8 minutes. And yeah, Sincere, he continues to do what he's done all year, come off the bench, be a defensive spark for this team. There was one time he was guarding Allen, I believe, and he went on the floor 3 times and the guy still couldn't get by him. So I like the aggressiveness. I think he needs to temper it just a smidge. But Sincere, 18 minutes, 2 of 4, maybe the worst free throw shooter on the team, going 1 of 4 from the line. 5 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks, and Sincere playing 18 minutes had 0 turnovers. So for a team, Illinois had 17 turnovers. I think 6 of those were charge calls.
I mean, Sincere doesn't touch the ball very much, so
he doesn't touch it a ton. But I mean, in Illinois' motion offense, aren't they all supposed to touch the ball?
Well, their center likes to touch it and turn it over for sure.
Dane Danger, he was semi-okay. I put down here Kofi 2.0 as far as 3 or 4 guys collapsing on him, and he won't get rid of the ball. 16 minutes, 3 of 5, 3 for 6 from the line. I guess you'll take 50% from him. That's what he's averaging. 9 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, a steal, a block, and 3 turnovers. And I think all those turnovers came in succession. Like Illinois tried to get him the ball, 4 guys collapsed, he coughed it up over and over and over. So last guy, Ty Rogers, didn't play much, 7 minutes. He took a 3 this game, didn't even come close. Kind of what you'd expect when Ty decides to take a 3, but I'm
Bad.
okay. I'm okay with it. He was wide open. You put it up. He had 4 rebounds and a block. So, yeah, like I said, didn't play a lot, but semi-impactful when he was in the game. Other notes and quotes as we do. Illinois did force 14 turnovers while having 17. I think this team's averaging 15 turnovers a game. But the best part about it, I guess, if you're going to look for an upside, they only had 2 turnovers in the final 10 minutes, and their last turnover of the game came at the 9:39 mark when Sky turned it over. So, and it's really weird because 5 or 6 of those were charging. Brad said after the game, quote, "We worked on early passes and jump stops, knowing they were going to take a ton of charges. Thought we did a pretty good job after that. The charges, or after all the charges, and then Dane Danger, coughing it up a few times." So,
Well, Beard said in post game something about them knowing that as a veteran team, they need to get an opponent like this in foul trouble or something. And so, yeah, pretty much just take a charge whenever you can. Don't play real defense.
Yep. And
good job.
Those refs love, taking 7 leaps down the court and then making that charge call. So
they were very excited to call the charges.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gets them in the game. So defense again was good. 7 steals, 12 blocks. Allen had the best game for Texas, 21 points. I thought Illinois did a really good job stopping the guys that we said to watch out for, our players to watch, between Hunter and Carr. Hunter was 4 of 11, 2 of 6 from 3. Again, he missed that huge front end of the 1-and-1, and I think he was 12 for 13 on the season at that point. And then Carr, 3 for 14, 0 for 5 from 3. So
it still sucks against Illinois. Weird. I thought that when a player goes like this, that they had like 40 points. But that was his 3rd field goal of the game. It was very impressive. He went 0 for 3 after that, by the way. So good job, Marcus.
Zach wants to know our thoughts on the content wars drama between the 247 guys and Robert Rosenthal.
I've never heard of them.
I don't know much about it. I looked it up because of other reasons, but
I'm unfamiliar with any of these people.
Well, I guess the 247 guys got front row seats or got to sit down at the media table, and all the Illini guys, their website, got sent up to the nosebleed media section. So Robert Rosenthal tweeted about it. I guess Brad Sturdy was down there and they sent him to the nosebleeds. So they said something about, paying for travel and then trying to build their business and then being shoved up there. I mean, I paid to go to Vegas and I had 8th row seats. Sorry, guys. That's what you get for having a media pass, I guess. So,
well, the 247 guys certainly give off a holier than thou vibe from what I've seen on Twitter. They think they're better than all of us, or everybody else, I should say, because when you go on their website, you have to pay to read any of their stuff, which their stuff's probably worthless garbage anyway. And I don't know anything about this Rosenthal fellow, but
I think he's a football guy. But
well, I hope he knows the football program stinks. I mean, they're better than they've been in a while, but they're not going anywhere. They're going nowhere fast.
All right.
But out of all the things to complain about, how about you enjoy the fact that you're in Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, okay? Enjoy that. And you're not there to watch the Knicks either, who are atrocious.
Zach says also Billis is a coward for not calling out the refs for missing the goaltending call after using his monitor. Think he should have yelled, "It's clearly not goaltending, guys."
I don't know what you expect to do there.
I don't think that they get to do that. I thought it was pretty impressive. We talked about it. Illinois, let Texas go on a 16-2 run over 10 minutes. And I talked about Brad's quote, but his actual quote was, quote, I'm going to say quote 3 more times before I give this quote. Quote, "We're about as ugly of a basketball team as we could be in that 16-2 run. Didn't look like we could beat a high school team." So Brad was not very happy. I thought it was interesting. Somebody shared that Illinois is now beaten top, how many? I think it was 20 top 10 teams since 1985. 3 of those or 2 of those came this year, and one was Duke in 2021. So Brad is doing more than
Duke in 2021 was
all those other guys, but they were still ranked. I know it was
by brand. Yeah.
Brad loves Sky's rebounding. He is tough. Yeah, I like Sky, how he does crash the boards. I have no, but he doesn't trust him to score. Is the biggest thing, I guess.
I don't think Sky trusts himself to score.
Couple other things I got at the Illini fan on Twitter tweeted that Illinois currently has 7 players averaging 7 points per game, and then at Joey B 2003 added that of all the 7, at least, or they've all had at least one 17-plus point game. So Brad talked about, the team and how you don't know where it's coming from. And he said, quote, surprises every night. I don't know who's going to do it. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what it will look like. I think that's the beauty of our team. And I think that's the kind of team Brad wants. And he finally has it. You can't let 16-2 runs happen. Somehow they came back into this game. But the offense, when it gets sluggish, it looks really bad. So, he also, I have 2 more quotes from Brad, so we'll just finish with these. He said, quote, I'm swallowed up and I'm full with the capacity of this team and the ceiling this team has, but I still don't quite have a grasp. We spread the floor and do a couple things, and that's our best offense sometimes. That is very different, and we are trusting our players to make the right plays. So Brad's basically saying, throwing the guys out there, they got to do it themselves.
Yep.
ACG says, never forget the back-to-back calls where they gave the ball to Texas, though. They clearly hit it out of bounds both times.
It's probably early. I remember something along the lines of that.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but and then the last one I got from Brad, which I thought I found this weird, is the only reason why I put it. He said, quote, I haven't watched any teams in our league. That's intentional.
Lie.
So he apparently doesn't watch them until game tape time.
Lie.
So
I bet you could find a quote from like a month ago where he said, yeah, I watched Minnesota and
he said that he
UNLV last night.
He said that he doesn't watch much college basketball when the season's going on. So
maybe that's true, but I bet you he's seen a Big Ten team.
I would assume.
You're telling me that Sunday between Purdue and Duke, he didn't like have that on somewhere, and like, yeah, interesting.
Just in the background. Yeah, but Illinois goes. They beat Texas. I didn't have any faith in them. You did, except when they were actually playing the game.
Well, I think everybody
about 2 minutes before, I think you said Illinois is going to lose by 20. But ACG says it was 10 minutes into the game, but it's when Brad went nuts both times, a tip pass and a block. Oh yeah, the tip pass. I remember that. And then Brad, he almost looked like he was going to die on the sidelines in that goaltending. Apparently, he was just rushing back to sit down so he didn't get teed up. Alexander tried to grab him, and Brad, Alexander got the RJ Melendez treatment trying to get him up. So, but yeah, great victory. You hope that there's no hangover heading into Penn State. Penn State just came off a loss at home to Michigan State. So they're going to be hungry. They're going to be ready. But I think Illinois, sold out crowd. I think they're going to have a good shot here. So,
yep, it's an 11 a.m. game, which is always a little bit scary. Big Ten Network.
I guess that means that
Saturday.
When do you think Meyer's going to start his fasting? Like, you think he's going to get up at like 1 o'clock, eat something, and then fast until 11?
I would assume he probably eats dinner tonight and then doesn't eat until after the game.
Man, that's a long time.
But it's not like a full on fast if he's probably drinking like Gatorade.
I'm sure.
That's not exactly a full on deal. But yeah,
Champagne Gazette makes you pay to go read their articles too. Hey, we'll never charge you here, guys, to listen to us ramble. Don't worry about that.
Yep. Both teams are 0-1 in the Big Ten. Penn State lost to Michigan State 67-58. That was, I believe, a home game for Penn State.
It was. It was.
They've lost two in a row.
They were wearing dark jerseys, so it probably confused you because Michigan
enough.
State was wearing home whites on the road. So
Interesting.
I hope Illinois isn't going to wear blues tomorrow.
I
They got to break out the scripts, right? The white scripts have to be broke out.
I would think
tomorrow.
so. Yeah, I would hope so. Penn State's lost two in a row. They started the year 6-1. I think that Micah Shrewsbury is a really good game planner. I think last year he had a good plan against Illinois. But this Illinois team is hard to plan for. That's pretty much been the biggest takeaway from everybody from the Texas game is how hard Illinois is to plan for because Terrence Shannon didn't do anything for 40 minutes offensively, and then he wakes up in overtime. They held Kofi to 11 points last season. They only lost Illinois 60-55 in Champaign, and Illinois shot 9 for 28 from three. And their plan was pretty much to guard everybody except for DeMonte Williams last year. He had 14 points. Made
he was wide open the whole game.
That was like the only game where he really made a huge impact.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But this is a veteran team, Penn State. They start 4 seniors.
They're old,
not all the same seniors, but they do start a lot of seniors. Their other losses were Virginia Tech by 2. They lost to Clemson in the ACC Big Ten Challenge at Clemson in overtime by 7. It might have been double. Was it double overtime or just overtime?
I think double. 194. Yeah, double overtime. Nope. Yeah, double overtime.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's double overtime.
It was double.
Final double overtime.
Yeah. And Penn State had a chance to win it in the first overtime. They just ran down and Pickett threw up a 3 and missed. So there you go.
I love that offense at end of games.
Yep. It's always fun to watch. Notable wins. These aren't that notable, but they're all top 100 KenPom teams. Butler by 6. Furman's a pretty good team in the SoCon. I know that. They beat them by 5. And then Colorado State, tournament team last year, they were a 6 seed. Obviously lost some players, Roddy especially. And they got destroyed by Colorado last night. They're top 100 KenPom, and I don't really know how good they are. Penn State beat them by 12. So, yeah.
Got a couple of things here. Jay says, hopefully not an early morning hangover game versus the Lions. Yeah, that's Illinois struggles in the morning, or at least they have in the past. And you just came off beating Texas. So I think somebody asked Meyer, how do you not get too big ahead, after beating Texas and then going to play Penn State? And he said, the way Brad Underwood screams at you, it's impossible to get too big ahead. So ACG says the difference between this team in the last few years is 4 different guys can beat you on any night. I'd say 5+ guys. So
probably, but I also think they had almost that 2 years ago.
Yeah. He also says, seeing Penn State play Clemson and Michigan State, just make them rush shots because they're cheeks otherwise. Cheeks, I like it.
Yeah. A couple interesting stats. Penn State is 356th in offensive rebounding percentage. So if Illinois can't win the glass and not give up a bunch of offensive rebounds, which if Illinois was good at defending the glass, they would probably be 9-0 right now, or at least 8-1, because they have been, especially Maryland game, they were killed by those second chance opportunities. So Penn State has no business being able to do that against Illinois. And also they're first in the country in point distribution from 3-point range, which is basically 3-pointers or 46.8% of their points come from 3, which is the highest in the country. So if Illinois can keep them off the 3-point line, which Illinois typically, except for the Maryland game, has been pretty good at defending the 3.
Yeah.
So
they just can't leave guys wide open. And
then the biggest discrepancy, which, they will leave guys wide open, but anyway, you got to hope that they're Minnesota Marcus Carr and they just miss.
Right.
They are first in D1 experience, 3.91 years average for Penn State. Illinois 300th with 1.24. So experience versus inexperience, but I think it's average to below average experience versus very, very good inexperience, I would say. So that's kind of where we're at. Penn State's projected lineup, they have at the 1, Cameron Winter, transfer from Drexel. Obviously saw Trent Frazier put him in the torture chamber in the tournament 2 years ago when Drexel was a 16 seed against Illinois. I think he was like 3 for 18 or something really bad from the field in that game. But he did have 26 points against Clemson. Then they also have Jalen Pickett, who I think is their best player. I think he's one of the most underrated, one of the better players in the Big Ten. Like, really good defender, stretches the floor for 6'4".
And
like
17 rebounds in that game against Michigan State. That's crazy.
Pickett is probably the best player nobody talks about in the conference. I think that's fair to say. They also have guard Andrew Funk, who is a 6'5", transfer from Bucknell. I never know how to do that one, but I think it's Bucknell because isn't it like, or no, I think it's Bucknell. Is it Bushnell? Bushnell, the rangefinder. Yeah, so there you go. That's really what I would do there. He's 22 for 60 from 3 this year, so a good 3-point shooter, 36%. I think he made the 3 that forced overtime against Clemson.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, we were doing a watch party during that game for the Syracuse game. And they also have forward Seth Lundy. Seems like he's played Illinois a lot over the years. 64% from inside the arcs, 46% from 3 this year. Very efficient scorer this season so far, 6'6". And center Keba NG is how we're going to do that one. Freshman, 4-star, 116th in the country recruiting. So they got a freshman big. I'm interested to see how much he goes against Dane Danger because he hasn't been playing that many minutes. I think he's under 20 every night, but I'll be interested to see how they approach that.
Illinois took Texas freshman big out of the game pretty much. So, ACG says our defense is surprisingly super nice this year. Besides the offensive rebounds, perimeter defense is nice, which I guess they do switch everything. It can be. That's the thing. It can be. As long as people communicate and talk, the defense can be really good. You saw in the Maryland game, you left guys open. You can't do that this game.
I think Illinois can totally suffocate Penn State.
What's Lundy, a 6-year senior?
He's the guy he's the one guy on the team that I think was there when they were 7th in the country 3 years ago before COVID when Illinois beat them.
Seth Lundy, according to this, it says his first year was 1920. So it's actually his senior year.
He's a pre-COVID guy. You remember him more because you remember when Penn State was ranked 7th in the country.
Well, and he's started every game since he was a freshman too, which makes a difference.
Yeah, obviously. And then, like I said, Illinois, February 18th, 2020, when they beat them, when Penn State was way up in the rankings. And obviously, Io was dominant in that game with 24 points. And Lundy, he's been there for a long time. So there's certainly nobody on that team that is playing right now for them, I don't believe, because they had Brockington, he's gone. Dredd's gone. Stevens is gone. Wheeler's gone. Wheeler was at Ohio State last year. And Harhar's gone. So, it's a different team.
ACG says once we cut down turnovers, this team can be even more dangerous. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, if they can get to 10 or less turnovers a game, I mean, what did we say? They're averaging 15 and a half or something.
I would say 12 or less would be
12 or less would be good. Yeah,
because I think they've been doing that a lot. Like they only had
possessions.
They had 12. They had 12 against Maryland. Yeah. They had 7 against Syracuse.
Well, and if they don't have five charge calls in this game, they have 12. I mean,
they had 13 against Virginia, but it was 6 of them from Shannon. So I feel like turning the ball over has not been that big of an issue this year. I got to be honest. I mean, there's a few games where you're like, UCLA, they turned the ball over a ton, but they won the game. They turned the ball over 21 times to beat UCLA.
Yeah.
So I don't think turnovers are that big of an issue. Like, I think it's the occasional game where one guy does it a lot.
Yeah.
Like Clark's had a couple games before. Shannon obviously had the game against Virginia, but
ACG says, I know it's down the line, but I can't wait until Paul McCahey cries against us. Yeah, Rutgers got screwed last night, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right, Ken Palm, adjusted offense, Illinois 29th, Penn State 42nd. Adjusted defense, Illinois 12th, Penn State 56th. And tempo, another game where there's a big difference. Even though Illinois slowed down a little bit, they were up to 11th, I think.
Yeah.
At one point, they're 27th. Penn State's 283rd. So,
yeah. So, Penn State, good defensive team. They got guards. They're pretty guard heavy, guards that can drive. Pickett is, he is that guy. He'll get in the lane,
The
and then
difference,
people
though,
get lost. I feel like he had so many assists where, two guys collapsed on him in the lane, and he found Lundy wide open in that Michigan State game.
the difference in this game as opposed to last season, because last season when Illinois beat them, Pickett had 18 points. He was really good, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Illinois has the personnel against him this year. Like last year, it was probably DeMonte guarding him, who is listed at 6'3", but is he really 6'3"? I don't know. Illinois can have Shannon on him. I know they switch a lot, obviously, but Illinois has the size at every single position, with the exception of Sky on him, which is not that big of a difference. But they have.
Scared when Meyer gets on him that he's just going to get blown by every time?
I don't think I'm scared that he's going to get blown by. I think Winter would be the guy that would blow by Meyer.
That's true.
More than anything. But I'm a little bit surprised that Penn State's defensive metrics aren't better. Like I would have thought that their defense would be better than their offense, especially when you look at this lineup. It's like your offense is probably coming from – you have 4 guys that are capable but consistently capable. I don't know how many of those guys there are. But they're almost like a live and die by the 3 team right now. Like they shoot a lot of threes.
A ton of threes.
If they don't make them, they're in trouble because they were 8 for 27 against Michigan State. Obviously, Clemson's a bit of a different game because it was double overtime, but they were 11 for 36 in that game. Their loss to Virginia Tech, which I think is the game that Illinois can look at the most. I mean, they made 11 threes in that game. Funk had 5 threes, and Miles Dredd had 5 threes.
Just looking at like their season 3-point percentage, I don't know how many like all these guys have shot, but they got a guy that's 66%, 2 guys that are 50%, a guy that's 46%, a guy that's 37%, 2 guys that are 48% or 47%, and Pickett's 30%.
Also, Miles Dredd's still there. Miles Dredd is still
there. Yep,
that's a
he's shooting 56% from 3.
And he's kind of been
how many he's taken, but
I have him as 46% from 3.
What'd I say?
56.
Did I say 50?
He's 22 for 48.
I think you're hearing things.
22 for 48.
Yeah, all right.
Pretty good. But that's a guy, if you want to talk about a guy who's been there forever, Dredd's been there since 18-19.
Yeah.
I think if Illinois can defend the 3, they'll be fine. I don't think Penn State's a team that's going to beat you on the interior. Lamar Stevens is gone. That's a guy that could kind of bully and get underneath. He's been gone a couple years. And I think Illinois, especially with lineups that don't feature danger, should be able to overwhelm them defensively if things go how I expect. And you got to hope Illinois wakes up for this game. I don't know why they wouldn't, but we've seen them. Against Ohio State last year, they didn't wake up. Or 2 years ago.
I think coming home to a sold-out crowd is going to be helpful too. So if not, Illinois fans will probably boo them. So
thank God we can't say this is like a look-ahead spot because I guess
at least
the
they don't
Maryland game was a look-ahead. We're looking ahead to Alabama A&M next Saturday.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure.
Don't have to worry about that.
The Alabama A&M game could be a look-ahead though with Missouri, so you never know. All right, so players to watch.
I'm going to go with Matthew Meyer. I want to see how he comes off this game. Like I said, I'm hoping that it's not I played amazing, let me do everything. Matthew Meyer, we see. I hope he still uses his team. I talked about that earlier. So I want to see him, play well, but play as a team also. Matthew Meyer seems to get in this when he's playing well, where the ball goes to him and he dribbles between his legs 64 times.
It's pretty sweet though when he's making them.
It is. It's really sweet. So, and if he's making them, have at it. I'll be okay with it. And then for Penn State, I went with Seth Lundy. We talked about him a little bit, but I feel like he's, one of those forward guards. He can shoot the ball. Illinois can't lose him on the perimeter. And then they can't lose him when Pickett drives and he's down under the hoop also. He's one of those inside out guys that can kind of do it all. So got to watch out for him.
I went with Terrence Shannon and Jalen Pickett. I think those are probably the two best players in this game. Obviously, Pickett, like we said, underrated, like nationally underrated, especially probably because Penn State's not like a top 25 team, not a huge threat to the tournament. Although they could, if they have a good year in the Big Ten, they could certainly slip in. But Pickett's a really good player, and obviously Shannon. Like to see how he comes out in regulation this time. In the first half and the second half, obviously not so great against Texas, but turned it up when it really mattered. And I think this is going to be kind of like a premier matchup, like two of the best players in the conference going at it. If you look at Ken Palm's Big Ten Player of the Year rankings right now, I believe that these two are both in the top 5. It's Edie 1, TJD 2, Shannon 3, Pickett 4, and Dickinson 5. So these are the two guys in the Big Ten where they're the two top 5 guys in the Ken Palm Big Ten Player of the Year race, pretty much, or the all Big Ten first team. These are the two guys that are in it, that are on it. Jesus, I can't even speak. That aren't bigs, because the other three, obviously, Edie, Jackson Davis, and Dickinson. So these are the two, probably two of the best non-bigs in the conference. Probably the two best. Like, I don't know if I put anybody else ahead of them. Like, I mean, is there even an argument for any? I mean, Jameer Young's off to a great start for Maryland, but I don't think he's better than either of these two. Jet Howard's good, yeah.
But a freshman, so.
Yeah. Iowa doesn't really, I mean, Murray is not a big, so I guess he would be the other guy, but he's faking injury. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, it was a joke. Obviously a joke. They're fine. Predictions.
10 episodes ago on our preview episode, I said that Illinois would beat Penn State by 12. So I'm going to stick with it. Illinois wins this 71-59, smothering defense. Penn State, if they're not making threes, they can't score. They only had 58 against Michigan State. So give me Illinois by 12.
I am going to say it's going to be close. And it's going to be one of those you're like, my God, they're going to lose.
You're going to be F-bombing.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, good thing I won't be on a screen this time. People won't be watching. 66-64 Illinois by 2. I originally had it at 4. I'm going to go down to 2. I think the line on this game is probably going to be like 8.5, 9.5. But it's going to be a close one, I think. A hard-fought Big Ten battle. I wouldn't be that surprised if Illinois destroyed them, just because if Illinois is making shots and Penn State isn't. But I'm going to stick with the fact that I think it'll be close. I'm trying to look for Brad Underwood's record against Penn State because I don't remember losing to them very often recently. So I'm going to do that, and you could just, talk to the
spitball
fans.
It. What do you guys think? What are your predictions for the game? Think Illinois blows them out? Do you think there's a little hangover playing early? I think Illinois is going to handily take care of them. I don't think it's going to be that close. So
look ahead spot. Alabama A&M's lurking. Okay. Let's see. So Illinois, in their history, 32-18 against Penn State. And then in the Brad Underwood era, which dates back to 17-18, he's 4-3 against Penn State. First game he lost by 22. Second game lost by 7. Third game lost by 16. And they've won 4 in a row. When Penn State was number 9, they beat them by 6. They beat them by
awful.
Yep, and they beat them by 17, 14, and 5. Obviously, December 23rd, 2020, a hilarious game where Illinois scores 55 points in the second half at Penn State and beats them 98-81. I remember that game because it was 43-43, and Illinois got off to a super slow start. And we were like, my God, this team's terrible. But obviously, Kofi and Io, probably the best game those two have played together in their entire run in the Big Ten, because Io had 30 and Kofi had 23. So, and Curbelo had 15. So that was a fun time. But I keep bringing up past results for some reason. But anyway, 4-3 against Penn State.
That's what you're good at.
4 in a row, trying to make it 5. They've won 3 games in a row against Penn State when Illinois is ranked and Penn State is unranked. And the last time they played where Penn State was ranked and Illinois was unranked, we've talked about like 5 times. So they won that game. So a team has been ranked on one side or the other in the last 4 games of this run, and the team that is ranked is 3-1, as I just said, in more words than I just gave you right there. So anyway, we both think Illinois is going to win.
Yep.
And now we move forward here. I was listening to this and I thought it was interesting. Hunter Dickinson and Jordan Bohannon host the co-host with Marty Mush, who's probably one of the worst Barstool personalities in my view. Yeah, I don't. It's not that I don't like Marty, but he's a Yankee fan, a Duke fan. I can't put up with that. The Round Ball podcast, and they got into Illinois and UConn a little bit. And they talked about Illinois a little bit. Dickinson just really talked a lot about how Illinois' fan base hates him, which that is true.
He gives them a reason to. Like that's.
I think he was pretty much saying that he didn't know why they hated him at first, but then he started to just play into it and kind of, I don't know.
He knows what he's doing.
He's like the unlikable white guy, I would say, and I think every team has one. I don't know if teams hate Matthew Meyer, but
so they got two of them on this podcast. Is what you're saying?
Absolutely. Well, we don't play basketball, but
no, not ours on the Round Ball. Him
ours
and
as
Bohannon.
well. But ours as well.
Ours as well.
True. I
okay.
mean,
all right.
Anyway, moving along.
Yeah. So what
Dickinson, he was saying it was hard to watch Terrence Shannon Jr. in the Illini uniform. He said that he had heard that since Mark Adams and Brad Underwood were, quote, friends, or they knew each other, that Adams made it easier for Illinois to get him with the whole admissions scholarship academic thing.
Whatever, bro.
I don't really understand that. And then he also says what kills him with Illinois' fan base, he didn't say the word cockiness, but he said everything but that, is with how much they talk trash. You would think that Illinois has one Big Ten title in the last 4 years. You would think they'd have 3 national titles with how loud they are. So I don't think he's wrong. I really don't.
Yeah, Illinois, but he is hating on Illinois' fan base being passionate, and their Illinois fan base is passionate, especially on Twitter. It's a little over the top, I would say.
Right when he said they have one Big Ten title because we won the Big Ten title in that one, the COVID year, and then Bohannon instantly jumped in and said that Michigan were a bunch of that I called somebody on the watch party a bunch of, quote, pussies.
Yeah,
pardon the French. He said that Michigan were a bunch of that for that.
Yeah.
So, but he also said Illinois fans are the top tier level of ride or murder their team, is what he said.
That is fair.
So
that's very fair.
Bohannon coming in like the very reasonable one here. And he said Illinois fans hate him too. And do we hate Bohannon? I just think, once again, the unlikable white guy. Which Iowa had a lot of.
Yeah, I think that Bohannon didn't. But that's there's always players that you don't like.
Neither one of these guys has good numbers against Illinois. Neither. Like I looked at Dickinson's numbers. His numbers against Illinois are horrible.
No.
So and Bohannon, especially when
he hasn't beat Illinois. So I mean, he didn't do anything back when Michigan was good, I guess. I mean, I know they've made what, 3 Sweet 16s in a row. Yeah. So but I mean, that's the thing is like Illinois is finally excited to have good basketball back. I mean, it's been 18 years basically.
I don't know if we can say that anymore since they've been good for like 4 years now.
Well, I'm saying like when they finally got it back. So I mean, of course, during those gross years, Illinois fans weren't passionate because they were awful. So whatever.
I think we had our moments. The Indiana game, 2013, that was a good time.
Hunter Dickinson can talk all the crap he wants. He can't beat Illinois. So that's all I got.
And Bohannon was saying that Michigan was being really hard on scheduling games after their COVID pause that year, which pretty much made them play less games to give them the winning percentage, which I will never understand how what was Michigan? 14-3 and Illinois was 16-4.
Yeah.
Come on. 2 wins, one more loss. That should overweigh. That's just pure incompetence from the Big Ten.
Yeah.
At the very least, it should have been a shared title like last season was, which last season was a real legitimate Big Ten season. But when you play 3 less games than you're supposed to, you should not win a conference title unless you are 17-0.
Ohio State went to the playoffs with 6-0 record. So people, Michigan and Ohio State get the benefit of everything, I guess.
They are big time schools, I guess. But Bohannon coming across as the more likable between the two.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with
He
either of them,
did.
to be honest.
I did see on the clip. He did say, "Oh boy, here comes the bandwagon Illinois fans." Though, so
I never heard that.
yeah, he tweeted it at.
Was there a clip? There was a clip of this because I was just listening to the actual podcast.
Yes, there was.
But yeah, so interesting. I mean, I'm really not the type of guy though that's just like a super big hater of one player.
That was his.
He did say something
here come
about
the bandwagon Illinois fans,
which doesn't make any sense because in the podcast he said something about how like I get that most fans are bandwagon fans, but Illinois fans are the most ride or die with or ride or murder their team.
Yeah.
So he said something that made it sound like he
fair.
doesn't think Illinois has that many bandwagon fans. I don't understand it. Anyway, I'm not a.
I mean,
person.
People aren't going to show up when you're 12-23. It is what it is. Anyways.
Yep.
Gary says Illinois 70, Penn State 62. He must be on a delay. He's
very much in between our picks.
Yep.
You had him by 12, I have him by 2. But anyway, shout out to their podcast. Hope it has success. Dickinson did say something during that podcast as well about
clicks.
How he was going to do every time he scored, he wanted to make Minnesota fans hate him or something. Like he was going to do something outrageous every time he scored. I didn't watch the game. So
he's going after Minnesota.
He was just saying that just because that's who they were playing. And then Bohannon said, if you guys lose to Minnesota, you're done. And they talked about how bad Minnesota was. So I find it interesting that they don't. The good thing I think is that they don't really hold back. Like they think Minnesota sucks. They both pretty much said it. Like Minnesota's terrible, and Minnesota's coach, we all know, probably wants to be somewhere else than coaching Minnesota because they are way worse than last year. But anyway, they might give up 100 points multiple times this year. But anyway, around the Big Ten.
Around the Big Ten we go.
How many times can I say but anyway? I think would be the next question. Iowa absolutely smoked Iowa State without Chris Murray. Kind of the opposite of last season where Iowa State smoked Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa was 12 for 23 from deep, and Philip Rebraca, I think it's Rebraca, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. And this was not a game from the beginning, and I'm glad I didn't get to bet Iowa State +3 in time.
I saw Iowa fans say that Iowa plays better without Chris Murray. So whatever. This Iowa State team is not good, though. Let's not act like this team's good. They were picked last in the Big 12.
I don't think they're good.
They beat North Carolina is not good, so that win means absolutely nothing. They won by 5. They beat Villanova by 2. Villanova is not good. They got smoked by UConn.
I don't know if I'd say Villanova's not good.
They're the 20th team because they beat a number 1 North Carolina who never deserved to be there.
So. I would agree, but I would also say that Iowa State still is pretty good defensively. So the fact that they just got smoked by Iowa and let them shoot over 50% from 3 is surprising because this is an Iowa State team that's pretty good defensively, but overall they're not really a good team. I mean, you look at they lost Tyrese Hunter from last year. They still have Gabe Kalscheur, who was a guy at Minnesota a couple years ago. They have Caleb Grill, who's a UNLV transfer from 2 years ago. Finally getting to play more this year. And then they bring in Osun Osaniyi, the center from St. Bonaventure, but not a very good team overall. But I will say they're very experienced. Like they have a lot of seniors on that team.
And I'm not discrediting Iowa's win. It's a really good win without your star player. But I'm not going to sit here and act like they would actually be a top 25 team when Iowa State probably shouldn't be one. So.
Yeah, and Iowa also turned the ball over a lot in this game. Aaron Eulis, their point guard, had 6 of them. So I think this Iowa team is probably, with Chris Murray, very much in the middle of the Big Ten, probably. Good offensively, not great defensively. I think last year was their team that should have been a lot better defensively than they were. But this year, defensively, their metrics, as of right now, are a little bit better than the last few years, but I don't think that those will get any better. Probably just get worse. You also had Ohio State beat Rutgers. Controversial 3-point buzzer beater from Tanner Holden in that game.
Made everybody question what the real rules are, I guess. Jay Billis said that it was illegal. People were saying that it's only if it's the same guy saving the ball or something.
I think it's illegal stupid. To me. I think it's stupid that a player can go all the way out of bounds and then just come back in and shoot like that. That just seems like a completely against the rules.
I agree.
So I think Rutgers got screwed.
I agree. Hey, by the way, foul. Do you foul up 3? Probably not when there's 7.5 seconds left.
Probably not. Yeah, that's probably true.
I think you got to get it under
And a lot of people are saying, well, the McConnell fouled the dude before. That's a subjective call. This is an actual rule where he ran out of bounds.
And on top of the him coming out of bounds, there was a slight delay on the rebound and when the clock started also. So
that is true. That was a home cooking with the clock. It was like a minute.
A lot of things.
Or not a minute. It was like almost a full second.
Yeah, and I think he got it off with 0.6 left.
I thought he got it off with 0.2.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a little bit of Columbus
happens.
Cheating, obviously, is what I would call that.
Do you think this makes it seem like Rutgers is good, or do you still question Ohio State? I know you were pretty high on Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not that high on Ohio State anymore. I got to be honest. I think Rutgers, I was surprised that they stayed in this game because they were out of it for a little bit, come back into it. I'm always going to say that Peichel's a good coach and he can win with lesser talent, but I think this year's going to be hard for them to stay consistent, even at home where they don't lose often. That home court advantage is large. But this is a very much a lesser. I mean, you lose Harper and Baker, it's going to be pretty hard to be back to where they've been. But I don't really think Ohio State is what I thought they'd be. But there's still a lot of time. It's early December.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michigan handled Minnesota 90-75. First game with Doug McDaniel at point guard after Jalen Llewellyn went down with the torn ACL. There's not really a lot to take away because it's Minnesota, but I thought they looked okay.
Yeah,
McDaniel's
I didn't watch
good.
The game, so
McDaniel's a good player.
Yeah, I think McDaniel's he can be really good. So
Wisconsin did beat Maryland on Tuesday, 64-59. Just throwing this out there, the free throw attempts were 27-12. Wisconsin. Thought I'd put that in there, and then they held Dante Scott and Hakeem Hart in check. They had 14 points combined, but they were 5 for 24 from the field. I think that had to do a lot with them just being off more than anything.
Yeah.
I don't think Wisconsin really has the personnel to slow those guys down, but I digress. And then the Big Ten teams with top 10 metrics in adjusted offense or defense, there's 4 of them. Purdue has the number 1 offense. Ohio State is the number 3 offense. Iowa has the number 6 offense, and Rutgers has the number 5 defense. So I'm very surprised at Ohio State. Yeah. Ohio State, which I was also listening to that Round Ball podcast. They were talking about, I guess it's definitely a white guy who rides the end of the bench for Michigan because Dickinson says one of my teammates has a hot take about Ohio State, and he was just saying Ohio State hasn't played anybody. And then Bohannon pulled up the schedule, and he was like, I don't think you're right about that. Because they played San Diego State doesn't look good, but they lost to them by 11. They lost to Duke. They beat Texas Tech. They beat Cincinnati. So, and Cincinnati's not that good either, but you can't say they haven't played anybody, but I don't think they've been very impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they've had a lot of struggles in first halves. Like they were up 6 on Eastern Illinois at the half. They were only up by 8, I think, on St. Francis, PA, who's horrible at the half. They're very much a second half team from my estimation.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to hurt them. I think most of their games have been single digit margins at the half, even against the bad teams. With the exception of a couple like Charleston Southern, they destroyed Robert Morris as well. But even the Robert Morris game was closer to the half than it should have been. So I don't know how to view the Big Ten right now. I don't really think there's much to say given the fact that it's early December, but I still think Purdue's probably the best team, but I don't think Purdue has the highest ceiling in the conference. I think Indiana and Illinois both have higher ceilings than Purdue. And as Ant Wright kind of riled up the Purdue fan base yesterday a little bit, talking about how you need a perimeter pro to win a national championship, which has pretty much been the case for a long time. You look
Yeah.
at all the national champions in the last decade plus, they've had guys in the perimeter that were pros. I'm not saying good pros, but played in the NBA, played professionally. So I don't know if Purdue has that, but maybe they do. So, all right. I know there's a pretty good slate of games tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
a lot of
believe.
good basketball. Alabama, Houston. Get to see Houston. That might be Houston's first like real tough game. I think they've probably played somebody else, but
they played Oregon.
we get to see Kansas get embarrassed. I mean, Missouri get embarrassed by Kansas.
Kansas get embarrassed by Missouri, yes.
Yeah, and then Arizona, Indiana.
Very excited for this game
Late
because it's a
night,
9:30 game. Yeah, I think Arizona is going to beat them. I think Arizona is going to run the floor. I think you're going to have an Indiana team with Hood Schifino, if he's playing, and Jackson Davis both kind of banged up. I think Arizona should win that game easily. I got to be honest, but I mean, I hope they do, obviously, because why would I want Indiana to win? But words are becoming very hard for me right now.
Yeah, it's getting. We're over the hour mark.
Well, I think the premier game of the day is probably Purdue, Nebraska, following Illinois, Penn State. Really, Purdue, really tough stretch right now.
Gary said that Michigan has a Big Ten bias in both basketball and football.
I mean, I think they've earned it in football at this point because the Big Ten's desperate to get a national champion. They should be more desperate in basketball. But
got two teams there. I don't think it's going to happen. So
Georgia's going to.
Yep.
But anyway, Purdue's going to be 13-0 going into January. What do you think?
Yeah, it's
they might be number one by then because they have Nebraska, Davidson, New Orleans, and Florida A&M.
Yeah, I don't think it's overly shocking.
And we can't complain about their schedule either because they played Marquette, West Virginia, Gonzaga, Duke. But,
yeah.
I think they probably thought their schedule was going to be a little bit harder going into it because Florida State and Minnesota are way worse than expected. Minnesota less than Florida State. But,
yeah, I mean, they're tough. The thing is, like, they have guards that people really didn't know about, but they play their position well. And they do the small things. So that combined with Edey being able to play 30 minutes, they're gonna be tough to beat. But
yep. All right.
The fact that they got to play Minnesota and Nebraska to start the Big Ten,
that is definitely the easiest.
Pretty nice too. So
because I think if you factor in the other teams in the Big Ten that are supposed to be good, Ohio State starts with Rutgers and Rutgers because they don't play a Big Ten game until January. But Wisconsin starting with Maryland and Iowa, Illinois starting with Maryland and Penn State, which Maryland Penn State preseason did look pretty easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really deny that. Indiana starts with Nebraska and Rutgers, which one hard game, one easy game. But anyway, we'll see because Hood Schifino did not play against Nebraska. I don't know. Maybe he won't play against Arizona. They're in big trouble against Arizona because Arizona perimeter-wise and you also have Arizona coming off of – I think they've played since they lost to Utah. But, yeah, they beat Cal by 13. But this is an Arizona team that should be very, very ready to go for this game.
Yeah. Yeah, should be a good one. I hope Hood Schifino is back. I don't know if they've had a timeline on him or not.
Yeah, I don't. Let me do a quick search here. I can't speak. I'm losing it.
But it seemed like a back or a tailbone.
Yeah, I thought wasn't it the same thing for TJD early in the season?
Yeah, maybe they're practicing too hard. All right, dogs are getting antsy. We better shut her down.
Wouldn't surprise me if Mike Woodson had them practicing too hard, by the way. All right. That'll do it for us. We'll be back episode 130 later on. They don't play again until next Saturday, so
yeah.
I don't know, maybe in the middle of the week or something like that. I mean, we can't dedicate an entire episode to previewing Alabama A&M, so we're going to have to combine them.
Right.
So
unless you see us tomorrow when Illinois loses, instant react.
That could happen, yeah.
Ethan can call some people some.
Well, that guy had it coming. I think everybody in here knew that guy had it coming.
Everybody saw it coming. So, all right, guys.
We will see you next time for episode 130. Make sure to check out Podcast Line, which I forgot to have the ticker on for this episode. Whoops. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Later.